Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Footy Banter and Insights. This is the game week roundup. So what we'll do is we have Abhi with us, and Abhi is a huge Chelsea fan, as you can see from the jersey and the emblem at the back. So we'll let Abhi take over the Chelsea game first, and then Varun and Ritvik will add their views on the remaining games.
I think this game was frustrating while watching because we really should have had that. And but at the same time, end of the day, you think that you know having that feeling of frustration is also I missed it because for the longest times, every time for the last 2 years, every match that I went into, I used to tell you, I'm not sure if you're winning. Draw is happy. I'm going to take a draw. Any match, I was like, I'm going to take a draw because I don't know if we'll win. And now coming into games where we think we can win. And when we don't win, it's like you start to feel that you're Chelsea again. And frustrating because it's so beautiful. I mean, it's just the start and how we've seen Enzo manage Leicester last season. He started in the same way with Leicester, and then it's in Feb when he starts falling. That's fine, but as long as you get it where you can identify, you can't identify the old Chelsea, but you identify a sense of play. I don't remember the last time we were attacking the low block constantly. I think last I saw was Sari and Hazard Prime, where he was running and there was Villian at the end. So it was very delightful to watch, but it was very frustrating because we couldn't win it. And the player that I really don't, I mean, I don't rate him much, although I think, was our man of the match, was Noni. Madueke, although not just because he scored, but he was a constant threat. So first, I think first 5-10 minutes is when he really gets selfish, like the villain kind of selfish, where he'll not pass the ball even when there's no chance. But the threat that he's produced, the speed and the way he cuts into people, the way he's been dribbling past defenders, it's a delight to watch. Although I would have probably wanted Pedro to play over Noni, but it was a very good game. I mean, wanted a win, but yeah. And I think the biggest reason for frustration at the end of the match was also that we play Liverpool next, and we don't have Kukurea and Fofana, I think. So that's a big miss because finally we have a centre back pairing who are starting to click. They're not the best. I mean, Levy still makes a lot of mistakes, but we finally have a stable centre back pairing who are not even injured now. And it's exciting times, yeah.
So my view on this is that last season, same game, Nottingham Forest versus Chelsea. Forest set up in a low block, they got the goal, and then we couldn't score. This time around, I think we actually dominated. Cole Palmer had a great chance. I think that one touch to get into the box, shoot with his right foot, that was amazing. And Madueke, like you said, I think he created a lot of chances for himself, but his final output wasn't the best. But luckily, he got one goal.
Yep.
And even Sancho one-on-one versus Ola Aina was pretty reasonable. He got behind him, he got the better of him, but somehow we lacked that little bit of final, uh, product that is needed. But at the same time, I would say, like you mentioned as well, I think like Varun was mentioning in the Villa versus United game, I think there is a clear identity of how Chelsea want to play. And it's exciting to watch. I know for a fact that we'll definitely concede. I think defensively are
Yeah.
very suspect, and we aren't the best in terms of handling transitions and set pieces. But at the end of the day, when the right players are on the pitch and you see a clear pattern of play, you know exactly what to expect. And
Yeah.
it's fun to watch. It's exciting to watch. So
But I
happy
think
with that.
it wasn't an issue about creating chances or converting them. I think this was Nottingham have played really well this season. I'm not saying well as a winner, but they've beaten Liverpool. They've had a good run of draws because they come with the mentality to draw against big teams. It's Nuno what he did at Wolves also. Always create a low block, one counter attack, get a goal, and then go back. So that was his philosophy. So we at any point of time had at least six players in their half in the last part. But it's just that when you have so many players defending, even after the red card, they literally put all their players back. So it's not easy to get that goal. And yet we were constantly having crossing balls in their opposite in their half. With I think Nkunku could have scored. I don't know if you saw that, but those last 10-12 minutes, we were a menace. We were attacking constantly. So getting to see that drive in itself was such a big thing because rest of the times it's just we are aimlessly passing. We are in our own half. We are at the half line. We're just passing amongst ourselves. We are not giving that push. We are not. We have mindless shots and we're just crossing for the heck of it. That we just find someone in the box and we'll probably score. This time this was more directed, and I think the way we played, like Varun emphasizes on it, Madan emphasizes on it, you can see it on the field. You can see that difference. So that way it's comforting. Of course, the win would have made a lot of difference. 2 points below Liverpool, but I still think there are very good positives to take away from the match.
Okay,
Although,
great.
what was th- a bit disappointing is I think Enzo's form has not been the best. I mean, his set pieces were poor, and I think even in terms of positioning, he feels a bit lost at times.
I think this was his poorest game for the season till now. But in
Yeah,
some games in patches he's done. So it's very frustrating with him, right? He shows flashes of brilliance, and then
yeah.
suddenly there's a huge drop. So it's a little frustrating as a fan. But he's not he's still in his early 20s. I think we'll have to give him time to reach that level of 100 million player.
And more than 100 million player, he can afford to have these mistakes right now because the team overall is doing well.
Hmm.
If he start losing matches because of his individual mistakes, that's when it starts to hurt. But if he's having a bad patch when the other 10 players are having a good form of run, then it's still fine because it's just a matter of time when he comes up the curve. He has
So
that
just,
quality.
correct. So just one last discussion on Enzo. So I had read one interview from Maresca wherein he mentioned that Enzo's position in his system is the most difficult system to play because that player is actually playing two positions. He's playing like an attacking midfielder when going forward and a defensive midfielder when tracking back. So he plays like almost a half eight, and it requires extreme amount of running, legs, vision, and I think either he will have to buck up to that system or we'll have to find someone who can actually do a better role over there. But right now, I think he's the best bet we have.
I
It's
think
the
that's
same
why,
role that Declan Rice plays for Arsenal, right?
yeah,
Very, very true, but in a
So
different format. In a different
yeah,
format,
yeah,
like,
in a different system, but very
yes.
similar kind of a role where he has to contribute both going forward and coming back.
Hmm.
And before that was Xhaka playing that role.
yeah,
So
it's
that's
a
one,
lot to
yeah,
process for a player at that time because
yeah.
every time the transition happens, I think that's precisely why we have Caicedo because he's that one guy who has that unlimited bar of stamina. So when push comes to shove, he's usually there in the defensive.
Yeah, he
You
does.
know, back in the day, there used to be a lot of these players who would contribute
Yeah,
equally in defense and attack. Like you see,
Lampard,
Patrick Vieira's of
Lampard.
Lampard.
Yeah.
Lampard was not that great defensively, I would say. Like he was more of an attacking player, but like a Gerrard, you know. So I think the sort of like the evolution of football when Tiki Taka came in, it took out this kind of a player, like this type of a role or this sort of profile of a player, and now it's coming back with the system that Arteta has or the system that Maresca has. The demand for such a player, like even Menu, he's not been very good this season, but that's the profile where you can contribute attacking and defending both in both phases of the game.
But
Also, looking at Enzo's inconsistency, it seems like he's a United player.
Yeah.
Pep
Honestly, I feel
always
like that.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So I feel like that number eight role was always meant to be like that. Like as Manan said, like in the recent stages, it was not shown to be like that in a lot of the playing style of few managers. But that, like from my time in Portugal, I've known like I've always been told by the managers that number eight role, like our team has been told that you have to run up and down and you have to contribute both to attack and defense. So I feel like that is more like the number eight's role, like it has always been that.
Yeah.
So just a question to everyone. Like Gerard is, I think, the only player I would say who was equally adept at doing both these roles effectively. Apart from that, in the present day scenario, one player each. Like, of course, I'm going to remove Declan Rice out of the equation as well because that's an easy answer for Haru. But one player each who you feel is the perfect combination of an attacking midfielder and someone who can also do a defensive job, or vice versa.
So many. Rodri comes to my
Rodri
mind.
was my answer. Yeah.
Rodri.
And honestly, Pep always has that player, right? Earlier it was Busquets. Now you could argue against that, but Busquets was so good defensively as well when he was controlling the game and keeping the position, as well going forward when he was feeding in Iniesta and Xavi those cute little balls to start the runs. I think he was really, really good going forward as well. So Pep has always had that player in his team. I really like Odegaard as well. Of course, his contribution attacking wise is much more, but his work rate and the way he falls back and like defense as well is pretty decent as well.
So, but if you see Varun, like Busquets and Rodri less so, but Busquets is more of a 6, right? He's not running up and down. And what we are talking about is sort of a box-to-box midfielder who's available in both boxes and doing well in both boxes. And that's a Gerrard. Like Rodri has been attacking a bit more, but Busquets was never that. He was never the fastest. Also, like Odegaard is also more of like a number 10 or like a 8.5 sort of a player, right?
So again, I wouldn't.
I think Bellingham is a better choice for this profile. I think he can defend well, he can attack well, and he can run up and down all day long.
Yeah.
I would actually rate Valverde. I think he's the best at
Valverde
combination.
Yes, Valverde,
absolutely.
So I would actually not box the players as number 6 or number 8, right? Because I think the evolution of football coaching has moved to the next leg. So it's not about the position these days, it's about the phases of the game. So one is the defensive phase, the second is the defensive transition, then the attacking transition, and then the attacking phase. Right? So defensive third, final third, attacking transition, defensive transition. Now this player is a player that contributes in all the 4 phases. Correct? So it's not about contributing in the box or as moving in the box as per se what a number 8 does. It's about focusing on those attacking transitions and defensive transitions, which is more important in today's football, which is kind of managers what the current managers look at, right? So that traditional position play kind of a thing is, I think, a thing of the past now. So people these days focus more on how the play actually is evolving from a transitions, right? So
but do you think like a Rodri or a Busquets are contributing to the attacking phase? Forget the attacking transition, but later
Rodri has scored so many crucial goals, I feel. And again, I don't. It's how you define contributions, right? Like, so for me, it's his presence in and around the box or right outside the box and then taking those long shots is also a facet of the game that he provides to City, which other players don't kind of provide. So.
But I think you always have a central midfielder who's always around the box in any attacking team, ready to take those long shots.
Yeah, but he's so good at actually linking up and kind of distributing the ball as well, right? From left to right, right to left, and kind of linking the different aspects of the attacking play and keeping the ball in that position, keeping the pressure on. And second is, it comes a transition as well, right? As soon as you lose the ball, Rodri is right there to win it back.
Run.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That's a defensive transition, right? So that is where these players become very important.
You know, what would be a very interesting discussion would be which of the Guardiola pivots do you prefer most? Like you have Busquets, then you have Lam, you have Fernandinho, and you have Rodri, right? These are the 4 sort of.
You had Yaya Toure also. Controversial, but
Yaya Toure, half season tha yaar. Busquets took over in the first season of Guardiola.
I used to dread him at City.
He was incredible.
Because out of the blue, he'll come from somewhere and he'll shoot.
Yeah.
And he wins.
Very interesting discussion. For me, I would definitely go with Busquets. I think that player changed the game. Everything else was a follower.
Abhi discuss mat kar, uska alag video bane.
Sure. Cool. So let's move on to the next games, guys. So Varun, do you want to take us through the remaining games, and then you and Ritwik can share your
Um,
views? We'll
sure.
start with the early kickoff, and then we can go up from there.
Sure. So the first game was Crystal Palace and Liverpool. Great game. I mean, from a Liverpool point of view, an away victory at Crystal Palace is, I think, a golden 3 points. Whatever the scoreline is, I think getting those 3 points on a board at an away game like this is very, very important when you're in the um, title race with someone like City or Arsenal, where you know that every point is going to be really important. They had some good chances which they didn't capitalize on, and that left the door open for Crystal Palace in the second half. Uh, at that point, Crystal Palace had a few good chances as well, which again they couldn't capitalize on. I think, but again, apart from the 3 points, I think the key takeaway is the injury to Alisson. Now that I feel can be a big miss for Liverpool going forward. So I think again, great victory, and the Alisson part is like a thing for us to watch out for, like going forward.
Right. So I didn't watch too much of that game. I watched like some of the first half, and like I saw that Liverpool was attacking a lot, but there were chances where you could see Crystal Palace take advantage of
Yeah,
Liverpool, and 1-0 is like a one early goal, and then the rest of the game just back and forth. I feel like Liverpool could have scored more.
they could
They
have,
had a lot of chances.
especially in the first half. Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's always very tricky at 1-0, right? You never know. In Premier League, I think 1-0 is like a very like a tense situation for the team, right?
it
And
is
always,
extremely tense. As a
yeah,
United fan, if United was in that situation, we would have conceded 100%.
I think as a United or Chelsea fan, even a 2-0 lead is not secure.
It's
Yeah, we saw that many
yeah,
times last year.
many times.
So
Even going
only
into the injury time second half.
correct.
Oh my God, yeah.
The only
Cole
good
Palmer.
thing for Liverpool is that they have the best second choice keeper in the league right now. I
Yeah.
think Kelleher is amazing, and I
Hmm.
think whenever he has had the opportunity, he's always stepped up. So I
Yeah.
think hopefully the difference in quality for them won't be that substantial.
yeah. Hopefully for them. Let's see how it goes. So second game was it was Arsenal versus Southampton. Um, First half we should have taken our chances, which we didn't again.
Hmm.
And as so many times it happens in this league, if you don't take your chances, you're made to pay for it. And in the second half, of course, Sterling gave away the ball very easily at the halfway line, and resulting from that attack, Southampton scored. Um, the reaction that Arsenal players had to that goal was amazing. And immediately within the next, I think, 6 minutes or 7 minutes, we were up to one. And that's the kind of reaction you would want to see from a fan's point of view, right? Because if that 1-0 scoreline would have stayed, I could see that the fans in the stadium would have been a little iffy, and they would have started kind of like panicking, or not just panicking, but like doubting as to what is happening, because again our forwards are not that prolific at the moment, right? It's difficult to see where the goals come from. But honestly, Martinelli scoring was good. We want him to come back in form, his old form. So that was a good. It was good to see him scoring in the second half. And of course, we finished it off with a third goal as well later in the game.
Any thoughts on the Havertz equalizer?
I think his goal was good. First time I've seen him not score with his hand or a scrappy goal, using his foot for a change. But a good goal for a change.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was, I agree, it was a beautiful goal.
yeah.
I was surprised to see it came out of Havertz, but yeah,
Same
it
here.
was a good goal.
Same here. Yeah. So yeah. Overall, I mean, again, in a home game, as I said, it was again Leicester as well. We were 2-0 up, we went 2-2, and then we ended up scoring the winner in the extra time. Here again, we were 1-0 down and we had to fight back to come back, to come back in the game. I would want us to win games a little more easily, especially
Yeah.
we are playing at home and we are against like the bottom half team. Like you don't, as fans, always you want an easy win sometimes, right? You don't always want, like a heart in the mouth kind of moments in the game. I want like an easy, peaceful win for a change. But yeah, seems like I'll have to wait for that. So
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot. Like Arsenal gets a lot of extra, like last minute goals and all, and
a lot of
I feel like
comebacks.
they just get lucky at times, I feel.
Yeah, in a way you could say that as well. In a way, you could be like, you just have to keep applying the pressure till the end. So
Yeah.
it's like
It's
what
definitely
Fergie's team used to do quite well as well.
yeah, Fergie time.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's true. The Arsenal players are relentless. They keep pressing. They keep putting the pressure on.
yeah.
But still, like I feel they get lucky at times.
Yeah, see, somewhere down the line, you will actually end up paying for it. There will be a time or there will be a game in which you concede first and probably are not able to kind of come back in the game or something like
Yeah.
that. So it's important to iron out these mistakes as soon as possible and kind of get few comfortable wins under the belt. And it also helps with the
Mhm.
rotation of the team and the rotation of the players in the second half, if that's the case. So yeah.
That's true. But yeah, like you said, that like after conceding that goal, how Arsenal came back,
Yeah.
I was shocked. Like they played very very well after that. Like
Yeah.
Saka played amazing.
Yeah. So it's again just removing the couple of players, right? So it was Sterling and Jesus, which was Sterling, of course, for his first start to the season.
Hmm.
I guess rusty, but also not up to the standard of this team, I feel. And Jesus
He's not.
again is a drop off in his form significantly over the last 18 months. Um, so again, like starting with those two players, I feel who are not in form, and that's where the problem was in the first 60 minutes. And you could see
Hmm.
as soon as Trossard came and Martinelli came, you could see the shift in the gears. So yeah,
That's true. So I
Varun,
wanted to
please,
ask. Sorry, yeah, go ahead, Abhishek.
Varun, but please just buy Sterling. Just get him off us, please. Don't judge him by that match, please.
honestly, again, like I've said this like a broken record on this stream. It's just that I don't understand why we signed him. He's not a player that's going to win us the league. So if
I
that's the
He
case,
won't
like
even be a starter. I was
yeah,
surprised why they were
exactly.
in for him.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think the main purpose behind that signing was everyone wanted to see the recreation of that one FIFA fan
Was there in all teams.
is supported in every single team.
Well, let's say Varun, Arsenal wins the league this season, right?
yeah.
The one thing that's changed from last season to this season is Sterling.
No, not
Take
really.
him.
I think our defense, we have added so much of backup to our defense, right? So it's Calafiori, which has come in. Timber, who was injured last year, has come in. So now, if you see someone like Ben White is injured, and Timber was injured, and still we kind of put out a very strong defensive lineup, right? So um, I think that's
But
one
you
of
were
the
strong
biggest-
defensively anyway last season, right? That was not the reason you didn't win the league. I
No,
think it
so
was
if
more
you
about the
see,
mentality, right?
It's
Like
about
just
being
having
Arsenal.
the winning experience.
no,
It's about
if you
being
actually
Arsenal.
see the games that happened at the end of the season, right? You saw Kivior starting few of these games in which we actually dropped points, right? So of course Kivior cannot be your first choice player. And if you see the season before that, when we were leading City by 8 points, it was Saliba who got injured and then was replaced by Rob Holding for the last few
Mm.
games, and that's where we dropped those points and City won the league. So I think it makes a big difference to have that kind of backup that you need in this season, which is going to be a very long season. So again, but I feel we are lightweight going forward this year. So kind of I think that's going to come and bite us.
You have Sterling now. You're not lightweight anymore. Keep him.
He's a negative.
So I had one question for the Chelsea fans also. I read a comment recently where Howard said that I know that we've won the Champions League with Chelsea, but it would mean a lot more to me if we win it with Arsenal. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, of course, you'd say that, right? Your current team is your favorite team. Even Willian did the same thing, and I think any player who would come here would do the same thing. So
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think
I feel like that
it's
came out
very.
of some spite against Chelsea rather than just like since I'm an Arsenal player,
It
I'm going to say
it
that.
may be. It may be. See, it doesn't matter actually. So the main thing is from a Chelsea perspective, I think he was signed by Lampard and he did
Mm.
well overall. And then with Tuchel, I think his game went to a different level. And
Yeah.
him and Mount helped us win the Champions League. I think we'll always remember him fondly. From a pure play player perspective, of course, when you are asked to leave the club and find a solution, and you are not playing in your best position for your club, effectively you are gonna maybe not have the best of ties anymore, right? I think many Chelsea
Yeah.
players who've left in the last 2 years, they have a lot of bad blood in the system. So I don't really
Mm.
see it as a negative. And of course, in fact, I think I am a bigger fan of Howard than Varun is. Like I have seen
Definitely.
him, yeah, I have seen him play a lot for Chelsea, and I know the ceiling that he has.
Yeah,
So I think I would definitely want him to do well. Preferably, I would love to see him do well at Bayern Munich. Like as a
Yeah.
Premier
yes.
League fan, I would not want to see any ex-Chelsea players going inside the Premier League and doing well. Would be very happy to see him in Bayern and kill the Bundesliga.
And I think barring
Fair enough.
Lampard, all the managers that we've had, nobody would have been able to fit in Havertz in the squad. So I think it's a mutually beneficial decision. We wouldn't have.
I don't think anyone should read too much into that comment, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Also,
But
everyone is more of a fan of Howard's than Varun is. Like, there's no one who hates him more.
Yeah, yeah. And he
I am pretty sure Havertz will win Arsenal the Premier League.
I mean, I'm not going to. I'll be very happy if he does, because eventually, if I'm an Arsenal fan, I'll be really, really happy if Arsenal wins the league.
Yeah. So
It's just
that's
that,
why Manan's question hurt me a lot. If Arsenal win the league, will you keep Sterling? We'll take Sterling back. It's fine. Not having Arsenal win the league.
I don't think it'll matter either way, because it won't be because of Sterling, or I think because of
Wait,
Havertz.
wait till May, and I think there will be games like, for example, this game. So in most of these tight games, or I would not say tight games, but most of these games, the first goal or the equalizer or the, let's say, the first goal if you're taking the lead matters a lot.
Yeah.
So I think in this game, the comeback started when Howard scored that goal, right? If he doesn't score that goal for another 20 minutes, or if Arsenal don't go in that bracket, they are attacking, but they are not able to score, suddenly the pressure is very different.
Yep.
So I think similarly, in some of these games, if you go through the season in the coming few months, you will find games wherein suddenly Arsenal are against a low block, or Arsenal are against a side which is doing better for a particular span of time, and Sterling just gets behind the defense and he scores that winner or he scores that equalizer. And I think those little bit of extra winning mentality, or let's say experience that Sterling will bring to the Arsenal squad, I think that'll play a difference this season. I really don't think he's a genuine starter for Arsenal, but I think in this Arsenal squad, he has the best chance of unleashing his true potential than any other squad in the Premier League right now.
And I think, like Varun said, I do realize that I was having this conversation with a friend the other day, and I agree. The only reason why Arsenal didn't win the league in the last 2 seasons was because of a poor squad depth. Their 11 was really good, but if you really have a poor squad depth, and 38 matches is a long season, because with the other competitions, someone or the other is bound to get injured. So once you have that squad depth where a player who's not played for, let's say, 2 months, or only plays 20 minutes a match, but if he's given 90 minutes and he's there to play those 90 minutes properly, that's when you start winning the league. And I
Yeah,
think this
but
is the
it's a
difference.
big difference, because see, there's a difference between adding a number to the squad versus adding a quality player to the squad.
Yeah, so that's why I said
Correct?
good squad depth.
Yeah. So the thing is that I don't feel Sterling adds that. Right. So again, Holding was a backup for Saliba last to last year, right? But he's not a good backup. There's a big drop off in quality when you say Saliba and Holding. Similarly, there's a big drop off in quality when you say Trossard on the left, Martinelli on the left versus Sterling on the left. right? Or if you say Saka on the right or Sterling on the right, it's like playing versus 8 on 10 versus 2 on 10 or 3 on 10. Like the drop off in quality is so massive that what's the point of having Sterling, kind of a thing. So I would have instead kept Fabio Vieira in the squad, or I wouldn't have sold um, the other Arsenal player that we
With
sold,
throw.
Smith Rowe. Yeah, I wouldn't have sold Smith Rowe, right? I think those were the better players instead of actually then signing Sterling on a loan deal, kind of a thing.
Yeah, but they should
And if
also
we
agree to that role, no? Like, for example, Smith Rowe would not agree to a role.
no, Smith Rowe was very flexible. He could play any of those roles.
No, on a bench role.
On a
as well,
bench role.
Not
No, he
on the field.
actually the thing is that he was willing to play. It's just that as to get the funds for some other signings, we actually have to sell him. So it wasn't that he wanted to leave. In fact, Arteta came out and said that I want to keep Smith Rowe and see him like a very important fixture in this squad. And Smith Rowe wanted to stay as well, given that he is an Arsenal Academy graduate. It's just that we needed that money to make some other signings like Calafiori and Marino. So that was the reason why he was sold. No other reason. So, but or I would have just signed Sancho, man. Sancho is so much better than Sterling. So, but yeah, let's see. Yeah, and then shall we move on to the last game, which was Spurs versus Brighton?
Yeah.
Oh, one more before that. Did you guys see the assist, the Jimenez assist?
No.
Oh, what a beautiful assist! I think you guys should check that out.
I'll check it out. Yeah.
He like flicked it, no look flick to Andres. That came out of nowhere. I was never expecting it as a viewer also, let alone a player. You guys should check that out.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
Immediately after the podcast.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
But Kovac is scoring a brace, huh? By the way.
That second goal was also great.
Yeah, I mean, so many people talking about Man City missing Rodri, and just Kovac comes up and just pops up with 2 goals so easily.
It's just one game. Yeah. We can't really read so much into it.
Even the first game against Chelsea, he played really well.
Yeah.
I remember we discussing in our after the game
roundup.
Yeah, I think he was really, really good in that first game against Chelsea as well, when Rodri wasn't playing.
Chelsea is ensuring that all the big teams get some players to kind of compete well.
Yeah,
you've given us Mount and nothing has happened.
Oh yeah.
you have a chance with Chilwell now. I like him, but you have a chance with him. Aren't you
okay. On the Chelsea game, I wanted to ask you guys, do you guys think that you guys got Neto and Nkunku very late on, and like the subs were very late, and he would have kind of got them a little earlier?
Honestly, we made a mistake in starting Jackson over Nkunku. So if you look at the tactics and if you look at how the opposition plays, Nkunku is very good against low blocks.
Yeah.
Because he stays inside the box, moves around the box, and he is a natural finisher. If you look at the Bournemouth game, Bournemouth did the same tactic. He got on in the 78th minute, and in the 83rd minute, he scored the goal, which was like a beautiful turn and then a first-time finish. And I think this game particularly, we needed to start with Nkunku. I think just because he had started the midweek game and Jackson has been starting the Premier League game, we did not do that. So I definitely feel he should have started. With regard to Neto, it's a tricky one because Neto's best quality is beating the man in crossing. And right now in Chelsea, we don't have a natural, header of the ball in the box. So I don't think Neto would make such a big difference. But I would love to have seen a combination of Nkunku starting, Palmer, and I would want Nkunku, Palmer, and Felix together in the pitch to break down that low block. I think that would be a great combination.
So I think the other reason why Jackson was started was why disturb a winning formula. And given the form that he has been in and the form in which Nkunku has been in, it made more sense to not change the lineup. And they've started to gel.
Fair enough.
I think Neto later part of the season might become a regular starter. I think we are still nursing him from his injury. So giving him 90 minutes regularly or even more than 60 seems like a risk. I
But
think
it should be
that's why
horses for
Neto.
courses, right?
Hmm?
So like against Brighton, Brighton is a team that plays high line. You can understand putting Jackson, who's so fast and he can beat the offside trap. Again, Nottingham Forest, I would actually agree with UV where you would want someone who is more adept at beating that low block. And I feel Nkuku would
And
be much
Kuku's
better than Jackson in that case.
fair. But then that's where the criticism for most managers come, right? That they're so stubborn with their team. And like you said, this was one of the main discussion points that the subs that happened very late. I
Yeah.
mean, they should have happened right at the red card, in fact. He
There's
took another
also a
red.
human element to it, right? Like we just think from it from an outside perspective that okay, it should be horses for courses. But there's a human element involved where it's not easy to change a winning team. And it's not easy to convince a player and keep him happy if he's playing regularly, scoring and performing for you, to sort of drop him or bench him for 1 or 2 games depending on
Mm.
tactics. So there's a lot of like other elements that go into it which we cannot understand having not being in that situation, and it's not easy for managers to manage that.
Fair point.
Fair enough. Let's wrap up with the Tottenham Brighton game.
Yeah, I think Ludwig was following that closely.
Yeah, Spurs bottled it big time. And I wouldn't exactly say that like Spurs altogether bottled it. I feel like one player bottled it for them. All three goals were Udogi's fault,
Yeah.
and he fumbled it bad. Like because of him, all of them went, and I feel like that has been the case in a lot of games for Spurs. But that Brighton comeback was solid. Like it made I feel like it made every single person other than a Spurs fan happy. But to Spurs' credit, they are attacking wise, they're playing very well. Like that, Madison is performing great. Then Solanke is performing well. Brennan Johnson is in the form of his life right now, and I thought that they would be affected by Son's injury, but it doesn't seem like the case. Defensively, if they were a lot more solid, like one or two players, those silly mistakes and all, if they were fixed, then I think Spurs would be a lot stronger this season. And Timo Werner, as always in every other game, he has been playing for the other team most of the time.
I feel Spurs is a team, right? Like they will always give you chances, right? So
Mm.
even if they score a goal, you always have a chance to score two against them.
Yeah.
Like you saw against United as well. Even with United being a man down, still United had chances in the second half against them. So
Yeah.
Spurs has always been a team like that, right? So again, like it's just that, as I said, they start off really really hot, right? The first 30 minutes again, if you saw yesterday's game, the first 30 minutes, both the goals came the first 30-35 minutes, I think.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
with Spurs, that's the phase that you want to kind of counter and make sure that they don't score. And then I think the game is for the taking, right? Because the rest of the game, they will give you chances. It's all about taking your chances then.
Right.
So,
So
yeah,
one
I mean,
question: do they get tired after 30 minutes? Is it that they're exhausted
I,
running, or what is it? No, I'm seriously asking. I haven't got a chance
I,
to
I
watch
wouldn't, I don't know, I wouldn't be that simplistic to say that they tire after 30 minutes. I don't know. It's just that it's very so the way they play, right? The press and the intensity which they play in the first 30 minutes, it's very difficult for any team to continue that for
Yeah.
90 minutes. So there'll always be a drop off, correct? And once that drop off of pressing comes in, with the high line that they are playing, the opposition has a chance to kind of break those lines, correct? In the first 30 minutes, if you're pressing very aggressively, the team doesn't have the chance to break the line, or like they don't have the time to rest on the ball, or like look for a pass to spray it or something like that, right? But after that, the pressing intensity goes down, and then you can pick your passes to your forwards
Yeah.
or like to the runners and all that. So I think that's the difference that happens.
So to the layman, there's a very easy solution, right? Like just move your line back and sort of move the whole block back after 30 minutes and manage the game. You anyways likely to score 1 or 2 goals in those 30 minutes. Like, like to the layman, it sounds so simplistic to solve this issue. And yet, like, I'm sure there are some reasons why the manager is not doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
for sure.
I'm sure there are like one of the biggest reason would be like not to make the game too boring for the fans. Like if you just score two goals and then sit back for like the rest of the 70 minutes, 60 minutes, like, even your fans would not enjoy it. I feel like if United also did that, we would have won a lot more games like that Chelsea game and a lot more games that we lost in like even against Porto, for example. But then people would still sit on Eric Ten Hag's head. They would be like, "There's no style of play. There's no game happening. We're just sitting back." That's one of the reasons, in my opinion, that makes. And plus, the managers itself, they want to show that like the style of play is a big threat, and it's enjoyable to watch.
I think as a
For me,
go
yeah,
ahead.
just taking this point. So for me, it's about how a manager organizes his team and his players. So for example, let's say if I look at a cricket analogy. Now, if let's say Ritwik Kalaria is going into bat and he has the freedom to score, sixes every ball, he'll play a very different game. And then I tell him, okay,
Yeah.
fine, from this ball to the next 3 overs, you can't score a six. You only have to play on the offside and you only have to take singles. Then you will suddenly be in a very different position. So,
Right.
as the entire week, we are going to be preparing a particular style of play, and it's not only the entire week, it's the entire season, the preseason. We are working on certain specific roles and we are working on certain specific patterns of play. Now, suddenly, when you change that pattern of play mid game, the balance is not that easy. It's like a mental switch, right? Like, unless it's a very game, unless someone gets like two, like, I'll give you a very interesting example. Chelsea versus Tottenham last year, Tottenham were flying. In that game, Tottenham got 2 red cards. Still, they did not change their style of play. They still were at the halfway line, and Chelsea ended up scoring 3 goals. Nicholas Jackson had a hat trick. But at the end of the day, the style of play does not change irrespective of the situation. So I think as a mentality, it's very difficult to get the players to kind of go in a different direction.
So
Would you
what I'm
prefer that?
trying to say is that you make this your style of play, where you're going to be aggressive for a certain period, and then you go to a mid block, right? Like, I don't know. I've never been a pro player, so I don't know how it works. I think Rutvik has been sort of pro, so he can probably shed some more light that from a player's perspective or from a team perspective, team environment perspective, how easy or difficult it is to have this kind of a play where you have two different styles in the same game happening, and you're training for that throughout the season to make it perfect, right? Because in every game the same issue is like there's only one
Exactly.
issue with Spurs and it's in every game. So if you
Yeah,
inculcate it in your training, then it might be easy to adapt it in the game as well.
But how do you make sure that what if you don't score in the first 30 minutes?
exactly.
That's the basic. And I
But
think
then you
I
also
remember,
don't score in the next six, don't concede in the next 60, right?
yeah.
Like,
But similar to what Yuvraj said, and that is what I was also trying to put in, is that the managers have this, when you're at that level and you've spent 15-20 years studying one philosophy, you've incorporated it in, let's say, 3 to 4 teams, you've got success. You have this unshakable belief that the system is right, the players have to get it right. So if you start questioning your own tactics, or if you're very fluid and you change it every game, or after every 30, 50, 60 minutes, or because you have one red card or you have two yellow cards and you suddenly change it, then I think as a player, the player would also start losing faith into the system. That if you're not
Hmm.
sticking to your philosophy, so then don't pounce at me saying that if I can't fit in your system, then you change your system. So you need to, I think, manage that also in a core group of players. That
That's
the
true.
players have to revolve around the system and not the system revolving around them.
So,
It's good at the
I'll
start
to
of
the
the season.
example that UV was giving, right, where Tottenham kind of had a red card and then they kept attacking against Chelsea and then conceded 3 goals. I actually would not prefer that as a fan, honestly, because I would actually prefer what Arteta did against City, right? Look, I see Arsenal. I want to see this when I am watching a game as a fan, right? I want to see the players give it their all, correct? And it doesn't matter when it's only, you can't just be one trick pony, right? It's a game where you need to know everything, right? Uh,
Correct.
and that's what makes champions versus a mid-table team. Correct. You need to be a Kohli which can play a Test match, T20 and ODI, rather than just being Surya Kumar who can just play T20. Right. That's what separates the best from the rest. Right. So if you are again, uh, if you are someone like Pep Guardiola who has the best players at his disposal, you can do that. Play just one style of football because you have that quality of players. But if you are someone like if you have someone like players like Tottenham has in their ranks, which are like okay, fine, they are not bad, but they are like average to little above average. You have to be a little flexible upon the team.
Yeah.
It's
So here, one perspective is like just in terms of individual training. Like I'll give you some specific examples which we may miss out on TV. So the distance between defenders is actually measured in meters on the pitch. The passes which they play, like let's say from left to right, if they are closer together, they'll play a different way. If they're farther, they'll play a different way. If you look at teams which utilize fullbacks or wing backs, their wing backs would literally shift towards the halfway line and they would attack in a way from there. Whereas if you look at someone like a team which is playing like a single pivot, now he would almost become like an auxiliary center back, come in the space and then distribute the ball. So the thing is, like I loved the way Arsenal played against City, right? Like I think it reminded me of Mourinho's prime defensive football, and I absolutely love that kind of football. But it's very difficult so I don't think Arsenal would be playing that game if they are 1-0 up at home and they are not a man down. So that is the thought. Like you don't change that tactic just to look
but you
at.
need to have it in your locker.
You need to have it in your locker, but you can't change that tactically in your mind, right? Okay, fine,
Yeah,
chalo,
yeah, yeah.
I'm playing against Southampton at home. I've got 1-0 up, and then I'm gonna just go on low block and I'm gonna make sure that I don't concede. I don't think it can work that way. I think it
Yeah.
can work in the Arsenal way wherein there's no option, wherein you know you're a man down and now you have to defend for your life and you have to score on the counter. So I think that's where the little shift, which I would say, like again, what Manan said is absolutely right. Like from a layman's perspective, I would think, yeah, इसमें क्या बड़ी बात है? I know both the ways of play, I can easily change it. But when you're actually making those shifts, it becomes very difficult to actually do that.
No, but a lot of teams do that, right? Like for example, I remember, for example, just take like Arsenal for example, right? When they start the game, they press very high, right? Like they also start the game with a very high intense press game. But then if you see the last 20 minutes, if they are leading 2-0 or something, they go into like a mid to low block kind of a thing, and then they start to kind of like score goals on a counter attacking kind of a play. So I think you need that kind of flexibility in your play instead of having like only one style of play which is so apparent that other teams can actually kind of break the code.
No,
I think
I think
completely agree, completely agree. Not about that. The only thing is, ki, I don't feel that you can change it after 30 minutes or after half time. Like it
So-
can't happen
Yeah.
mechanically. It has to be done strategically.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, for
fine.
sure.
And I think Varun, most of the good teams, barring let's say Pep's team, do this. That if they're
Yeah,
2-0 up or they're comfortably
Yeah,
up in the game, the last 10 minutes they start dragging it and wasting time. It's only I think Pep who's so true to his philosophy that in the 90th minute also he'll not be wasting time. He'll be throwing players into the
I
opposition.
mean, it's also like a misconception that Pep Guardiola is not flexible tactically.
no, he's very
He's
flexible.
very
His
flexible.
Yeah, he's very
teams
flexible.
are like
Extremely
they
flexible.
change mid-season completely. Like I remember the season after the first full season after the COVID happened. Like there was a bunch of games just packed in together, and the City did not start the season very well. In November-ish, they were like like 8th, 9th, 10th, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but they were between 8 and 12, if I'm not mistaken, and they're not doing well. And Pep realizes that, okay, my players cannot run as much as they used to because there's just too many games happening. So he reduces their running. They are playing more with the ball. They are like making the ball travel a lot more. And mid-season, he changes that and he wins the Premier League at a canter, right? So he also is very flexible tactically when he realizes these things are happening. And we are talking about one of the greatest managers of all time, not even like currently just one of the greatest managers, right? So
Yeah.
there has to be tactical flexibility
Yeah, for
when
sure.
the problem is so apparent for a long period of time. Because with Tottenham, this has been apparent since day one. I did not see any of Ange's teams before he came to Tottenham, but with Tottenham, this has been apparent, right?
Manan, he was in Celtic, right?
Yeah, but I didn't follow them then.
I completely agree with what you said, and I feel like that's exactly something that differentiates a great manager to, like, a good manager. The fact that, like, I think both of them have those philosophies, both of them have that flexibility to do it, but the fact that you can implement it so well, that is a key point, like describing how the manager is. And I think
Like
that is why Pep is one of the greatest.
like Sir Alex used to change, like, he was supposed to be like, he's considered to be one who was not very dogmatic with his tactics, or like an
Yeah.
Ancelotti, right? Like they were not very dogmatic with their tactics. They would change mid-season, they would change mid-game, whatever it takes for the players to be comfortable and for us to win.
There,
Right?
Yeah.
there
And
was
they
a
would be
time wherein
Absolutely.
there was a time when there would be four strikers in the box,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
you got two wingers just crossing the balls in,
Yeah.
and you're scoring.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So,
Like the
I
clear-cut
remember
example
in like
is
the
go ahead.
late 2000s, there was this one match against Tottenham again. And
5-3,
yeah,
5-3,
we were losing
Yeah.
like 2-0 or 3-0 at halftime.
3-0 at halftime.
And we were one man down. And we won 5-3. Like, it's crazy to think about that.
You
And
really can't pull that off now.
sorry?
Of
I
course
don't
not.
think it's
Pull that off
possible.
now anymore.
Now they have Ten Hag, na.
I was generalizing by you, but I take it.
Now they score five goals over 5 games.
Yes.
No, 2 weeks back, Sir Alex said that he was attending one of the big Champions League games or something like that. And he said that, such are the nights that I miss. And I was like, अभी Ten Hag को sack करेंगे और इसको like interim manager के लिए लेकर आएंगे for the rest of the season.
And this had come very close after him saying, I don't mind being I would love to be United's manager again.
Yeah.
A great example to what we were discussing, right, was Arsene Wenger. Now, when he had a great squad under him, which is the late 90s, early 2000s, you could play with that style, which was like super attacking kind of a play, right? Like, but as soon as you saw the quality of players dropped, the fact that he couldn't adjust and have that defensive side to the game kind of was always the sticking point for us, right? So that's where I feel the manager always needs to have that plan B or some flexibility with him instead of just following one style. You can do that one style, correct? Like you can be very dogmatic about the way you play, the philosophy of your play, but that is only kind of justified if you have that kind of players to play with.
I think in Wenger's defense, the time like the early 2000s is when the club was also in a different situation where he didn't have that kind of money to spend
No.
or have that kind of.
In fact, the opposite, Abhishek.
Opposite,
Like late 90s to early 2000, Arsenal were one of the most defensively solid teams around. Like honestly, Sol Campbell, Martin Keown, Ashley Cole, you had Laurent. It was like a crazy squad, and they were defensively extremely solid. It's only because of the Emirates, like when the new stadium was being built, that's when that's what I'm saying. I would support Wenger because
Exactly.
I feel
But that's what I'm saying. When the quality of player drops, that's where the manager has to change his style a little bit. Correct? So when you had that fab defensive players in your team, it's okay to play that one trick kind of a thing where you go all out and play fast football and only attacking minded and like all of those things. With that kind of players in your team, it's okay kind of a thing. But when quality drops down, then it's about how you adapt. Correct? To a different style or different philosophy to the game situations. And I think that is very important. Great. Let's wrap this up, guys. So thank you for watching, everyone. Do hit the like button, subscribe, share, and do let us know your thoughts in the comment section. See you guys soon.